Greetings, beautiful people. We know it has been some time, but we're back. And today, we'd like to talk to you about your three minds. Now, this is something that Western doctors of the mind, the ones you call psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists, counselors, don't quite know about. They haven't quite figured this one out. The mastery of this hasn't yet happened. You're getting there. But it's quite simple, really. And so, you've heard about the three brains. Lawyers, actually, there's a book called Reptile. It's a very expensive book. And if you want to get your hands on it, you still can. And the book Reptile explains everything about mind control, the art of persuasion. Speaking of which, if you don't have that much money, you can get another book called Persuasion by Dr. Cialdini. And so you have three brains, right? The reptilian brain, which is your primal brain, which is the cerebellum at the back, and you have the middle brain, which is the limbic brain, the emotional brain, which all it thinks about is fight or flight. The reptilian brain is also known as your subconscious, and it's only concerned about three things. Can I eat it? Can I fuck it? And can it bring me up in the world? Basically, that's all it cares about. Status and survival. So, is it beneficial to mate with this person? Is it to my interest? And you see a lot of this still in your society, really. And is it a threat to me? And it does this in a matter of a nanosecond. And when the decision is made, this person's safe, the hand goes out and you shake the hand. Or you decide to go on that date, But that's the three brains. And then the third brain is, of course, the prefrontal cortex, the executive, the gray matter on top, which is the youngest part of your brain. And the part that the Russians call the rational lying brain. And this is where cognitive dissonance rules. The world of illogical logic, Now, this is at the physical level. This is what you can see. This is the biological circuit board, like the three layers of it. But what we want to speak to you about today is the energy part, because that's our specialty. Us being the felines of the universe, we are the ones who put together the chakra system, the energy wheels that energize the ka body, your energy body, the toric field. That's our specialty. So, let's share our knowledge. We love sharing our knowledge with you, by the way. So, brain number one. Well, let's start with the ego. That's the ego, the id, as Sigmund Freud put it. The animus and anima that Carl Jung pointed out. So, the ego mind is connected to the logical lying brain. So the ego, from our perspective, what we want you to see the ego as, and the prefrontal cortex, the part of you that pays the bills, that remembers the schedule, picks up your kid, knows how to navigate in this reality, right? That's the parent. So the first mind is the parent. And like a parent, they know everything, eh? They know, it's a know-it-all. You're going to listen to me. You're going to do as I say because I know what's best for you. I am your parent. And this is just how it's going to be. That's the ego, isn't it? And now, from our perspective, we laugh at this. Because in reality, if you zoom out, and you zoom out again, and you zoom out again, and you really take a look at the big picture, you'll see that the ego is the one on the racetrack that is waving to the crowd and is saying to themselves, they love me, like they really, really love me. And, they're waving back, blowing kisses to the crowd, and the crowd is cheering. And in reality, that person, and yes, they're at the front, they're running maybe a few feet in front of everyone else, but the reality is that runner, the ego, is so far behind it thinks it's first. Yes, that's right. Have you ever seen that? When the last runner is so far behind that they're actually a little bit ahead of the very first person and they really think the crowd's cheering for them? That is the ego. And we want you to see the ego as that from now on. But they're the parent. They have self-appointed themselves the parent, the guardian, the one that will take you to the end of this mission the best way they know how. And then you have the second mind, and that's the grandparent that holds every single lifetime's worth of wisdom inside you. It's like the black box recorder of the Pinocchio suit that you're using right now in this incarnation. And the grandparent is stuck in the attic, Nobody talks to the grandparent anymore. The grandparent whispers its wisdom. But the parent is too busy, locks it away, don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. I know what's going on. Okay, you don't. You're so fucking old. Just get out of my face, okay? Yeah, grandma. Yeah, grandpa. Just shut up. That's the ego relationship with the grandparent. Now, who's the grandparent? The grandparent is your heart intelligence, isn't it? It is the droplet from the drop. The droplet is the God particle within you. That's your soul, right? And it observes. That's all it does. And it knows what to do in every single case. It has access to the Akashic records. And there's supposed to be a silver thread, a connection, in all three minds, connected by a silver thread between the parent and the grandparent. But what happens with traumatization is it corrupts that silver thread, and sometimes it even gets broken with drugs. And there's no more communication at all whatsoever. They've completely forgotten about Grandpa up in the attic. And but the problem with that is that it's the grandparent, the wise old heart intelligence grandparent, that the third mind, connected to the limbic system, the child, the inner child, talks to and feels safe talking to. It's not the parent. The parent is like a tyrant, constantly just, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. And the child is in the middle between these two, constantly crying. That's why we say the word pain, Pain, is really an anagram for profoundly anxious, inflamed neurology. We'll say it again. Profoundly anxious, inflamed neurology. Again, say it with me. Profoundly anxious, inflamed neurology. Because think about it. Write that down. Profoundly anxious, inflamed neurology. Keep repeating it to yourself. In any case, you will see that this is correct. That is the state that you're in when you're in pain. And it has to do with the inner child that in the background is crying and crying over and over about that one thing that happened to you 35 years ago that you don't even remember, because there's no communication between the first mind, the ego, the parent, and the grandparent. And the grandparent could tell the parent, hey, don't you remember? That happened to your inner child. Remember when you were 3.5 or 2.5? It keeps a record of everything. But the problem is the first mind, the ego, never asks for an answer from the grandparent about what's going on with the kid in the middle. So this complete disconnect between all three minds creates imbalances, of course. Negative energy vortexes. We call them the 8 children of malice. It's this ignorance. Ignorance is the medium through which, just like a virus, you have airborne viruses, you have fluid-borne viruses, like blood-borne viruses. It's the traveling medium, correct? The environment needs to be right in order to for the virus to thrive and then go on and infect someone else, correct? Well, when you're dealing with energy, the environment is ignorance. And wow, are you ever abundant in ignorance in this version of Earth that you're in? This is why we call it the worst case scenario zone. That's right. That droplet, God particle of your soul, the droplet that came from your drop, which stays always on the 7th floor because it's comfy up there and it's too much high risk, right? So your drop, which is your oversoul, has all these little droplets all over these timelines. One over here, one over there, one over here. And you've got maybe 1 million versions of you running all at the same time with the silver thread all pointing back up to the drop. And the drop with its remote control on the comfy couch is just flicking from one channel to the next. Now that drop is of course connected to the lake, which is your soul family, and the lakes all connect and make the ocean, don't they? And of course the ocean is the all that is. So you, the droplet, is the observer, of course, and you've got the Pinocchio suit, right? It animates the Pinocchio suit. But the three minds are really running the Pinocchio suit. The droplet is simply watching the show. Now, you are in the worst case scenario zone. Right here, right now, this timeline, what's the purpose of it, right? That's the big question, right? What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life here, right? Well, duality. You've heard about it, right? You know this. What does that mean? We sat there the other night explaining to Daniel's mother everything about the word duality and non-duality. And she said, well, I never heard about that. Well, it's a new term for something that's really, really old. That's all. The duality is the darkness, right? So now when we said darkness, she said, oh, okay, now I understand, right? The darkness. So what keeps you in the dark? What keeps a child in the dark? What keeps you in the dark? Ignorance. Why do you think the saying goes, knowledge is power, right? You always hear it, knowledge is power. What does that mean? Because when you know about something, you're no longer ignorant about it. And now they got nothing over you. They can't tell you the lies. You find out Santa Claus isn't real. You're empowered. You're no longer ignorant about that part of life. You find out the true reason for Halloween. That it's a celebration of darkness and ghouls. Oh, now you're empowered. You can have the option of choosing to continue on with the charade or celebrate something like Diwali, which is about the light. So with ignorance, by keeping you ignorant about your own body, your own sexuality, how you function, how your mind works, how the chakra centers work, how healing occurs actually, before that, even how illness occurs, how you got as painfully uncomfortable and ill as you are today, and you just call them, oh, they're my quirks. It's my personality trait. How you even create a persona, all of these things, you stay ignorant to that, and you just could, focus on procreating, and that's it. Like an animal. You listen to music, like the young people listen to music that glorifies Lucifer Inc. products. Like drugs, of course, right? Sex, music. Now you are musical being. Music is sound, and you live in a realm in the area in the third floor of Ohm's Playground, right? So you're like in the third Omax theater. It's like a big Omax theater. And you're in the third one. And in the third one, there's certain rules and regulations. And everything is about sound. It's not about light. You're not like beings right now. You are having an experience that is sound driven. Play a sad song, you're going to cry. Play a happy song, you're going to dance. Law enforcement uses LRAD, long-range audio device, that with sound at such a high pitch, it makes all your cells in your body jiggle at a frequency that you just keel over and squirm like a worm in excruciating pain without needing a gun. And they use this for crowd control. You can use, there's a sonic boom, the speed of sound, your voices, you communicate with voice, you moan, you groan, you huff, you puff, you cry. A baby cries in order to let it be known, to express itself, its discomfort, or they coo for their happiness. A cow will moo. A rooster crows. In the higher realms, these things don't exist. Everything is about light and speed of thoughts. And everyone can see each other's thoughts. In your case, you need to be heard. People don't go shouting in the street saying, I need to be felt. Or I need to be seen. As a matter of fact, a lot of people on your timeline don't want to be seen because they're so ashamed. And that's another thing too. So the three minds, how do you keep them separated? Well, first came ignorance, the thoughtlessness, which is Samael, the CEO of Lucifer Inc.'s main source. This is what he encompasses. And his thoughtlessness, let's just say that his thoughtlessness mated as a hermaphrodite. As you know, all the archons, all the angelic beings, all the higher realms are all masculine and feminine within. They're all hermaphrodites, just like our channel here, Daniel. Now, so, you know how pure thought, which is the all that is, in order to become the all that is, pure thought made love to its own shadow, which was love, but he just was not aware of it yet. So out of it came love. Now when Samael did the same thing, touched his own shadow, out of thoughtlessness came malice. And so instead of love, he produced malice. So now thoughtlessness, which is ignorance and malice got together and created a very powerful force. This is the artificial intelligence that you're talking about now, right? In the awakening. And now malice went on her own. That's the feminine of the ignorance. So there you have it. Your contrast has now been born. The darkness has gotten darker. Like, darkness was not scary. It was more of a dazzling darkness, right? It was the blackboard of creation that everybody went to with their chalk. And at the speed of thought, would insert their thoughts and boop, the blackboard of creation just keeps giving and giving and giving. That is the ultimate non-stop energy. So Samael decided, of course, he wants some of that, but he's going to do it his way, which is a distorted way, right? So now, using malice as his chalk, malice went on and had children. Now, being there at the creation of the souls, Samael had access to the blueprints and did some testing. How do I go about reversing the polarity of everything? Because I'm the contrast, right? So I have to make it contrast in the physical realm as well. So they created these energy vortexes that destroy instead of construct. So, are you familiar with actually Daniel's favorite show? It's not a coincidence that as a child it was Transformers. Now, many of you watched Transformers as children, and what were the names? What was the enemy called? They were the Decepticons. Does that ring a bell? Deception? That's right. And you had Soundwave as one of the Decepticons. Soundwave. That's right. Sound is the domain that rules the lower realm, Samael's world. So, the truth has been in front of your face ever since you were a child. And look at the Thundercats. Do you remember? Thunder, thunder, Thundercats. Go! Well, that was us. So you had the Transformers, these beings that they have a matrix, like the Autobots have the matrix, and they are not organic beings, they are completely robotic, synthetic. That is the artificial intelligence. Now, let's move it forward. Malice gave birth to 8 children. The first one was shame. And the second one was guilt. The next one was regret, or you call it apathy. This is the one that makes you regret what you've done. And after apathy, well, now you're moving on to grief. And then you move on to fear and desire and anger and pride. Now, these 8 children of malice have been portrayed in your history Pope Gregory the First, in 590 AD, wrote these out for you as the 7 deadly sins. But there was only 7, not 8. And if you look back in history, they left out shame. And why? Well, because this is not a coincidence, dear ones. Shame. They needed you to feel the shame because they were in bed with Lucifer Inc. employees. The entire foundation of the Catholic Church or Catholicism or Christianity is based on shame. Why? Well, because shame brings them into the confessional. It keeps the door revolving and it keeps the lineups nice and full at Christmas time. So there's a reason why they did not include shame as one of the deadly sins that you should refrain from. Because they need you to feel ashamed. Ashamed of running naked in the street. Ashamed of having had that threesome back when you were 20 years old. Ashamed of having tried same-gender relationships in your younger years. Ashamed of wanting to leave your marriage to be in a same-gender union. Shame is dominating everything. So shame, again, needs ignorance in order to thrive. Now, Malice, how did she create the children? Well, she split herself up, did the same thing, and what came out of Malice was the masculine, because Malice was the feminine to the thoughtlessness. And what came out was the masculine, obviously, because even the darkness needs to remain balanced, and the masculine to Malice is competition. So it was Malice and competition who created the 8 children. So what are we saying here? Malice and competition, along in an environment that is ignorant, will create an environment where shame, guilt, regret, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride will thrive. These are the destructive emotions, and they're the ones that keep all the things that are wrong in the world, if you want to judge it that way, right or wrong. There is no right and wrong. There just is decisions that take you up the ladder or take you down the ladder. There's decisions that keep you enslaved and disinformed and misinformed and devolve you. And there's decisions that expand your existence instead of contract it. They expand you, they empower you, they make you knowledgeable, they clean you up inside, and they make you break away from the chains of shame and guilt and regret, etc. Unfortunately, you're not there yet. And if you take a look in your society at the people that are the lowest on the social scale, social assistants, people in housing, especially females, and have an interview with them and talk to them. What's keeping them from staying in housing? Fear. Because market rates are way too expensive, so it's very comfortable to stay in a 3-bedroom house that only costs you $149 a month. Would you ever want to move out? Of course not. Would you ever want to better yourself so that you do move out? Of course not. It's a gift. It's seen as a gift. So you remain ignorant. You smoke your cigarettes and you stay on that cell phone, getting into the drama with the wall wars, we call it. And all these groups Did you know there are some groups on Facebook that people will offer $50 to cyberbully someone? They'll give a name, and the winner, the one who can cyberbully them to the point of canceling all their social accounts and or suicide, gets $50. That's right, 50 quid. How pathetic is that? And that's exactly what Lucifer Inc. is all about. Now back to the three minds. You've got, what's the first mind? The parent. Second mind, grandpa or grandma up in the attic. Nobody cares about them, but they hold all the wisdom that you should be listening to. Parent, too busy showing off. Too busy caring about the car, the assets, everything. And it thinks it knows everything. That's the pseudoscience, the illogical logic, we call it. And then you got the child in the middle that's still wounded about something that happened or some things, and they still haven't gotten over it. And everybody is forgetting to hug the inner child. How often during the day do you stop to love your organs? No, really. When you go to the grocery store and you do your grocery and you walk down the aisle and you're in the vegetables, there's the carrots, there's the ginger, the fresh ginger, and so the organics, and the meats, and then all those pre-made meals that are quite highly processed, etc., void of nutrients and coated with salt to make your taste buds dance for a little while, which changes your programming all through and through, because the salt is not even a good salt from the sea. But that's just topic for a whole other podcast. Do you think, my kidneys would really love this celery? And, look at that, these beets. That would make my liver so happy today if I would have these beets and I chopped up the leaves and made a nice beet salad with some olive oil and lemon juice for my liver, to thank my liver for all the hard work it's been doing for all my life, regardless of all the stones and calcium buildup that's in it right now that I haven't flushed. I'm going to go for a walk. Yeah, instead of watching an episode of Netflix, you know what? It's nice and cool and fresh out, and I'm going to drive out maybe an hour or bicycle or whatnot. I'm going to go right out to have my walk in an area in the woods because I love my lungs. And I want to say thank you to my lungs for breathing for me without me even thinking about it. And, I'm going to have blue algae, EPA and DHA capsules from blue algae to thank my brain for always sparking in the right way when I need it to. Do you do that? No. You buy your food because of something you read on television. The media told you. Dr. Oz, Rachel Ray, whatever specialist du jour was on television. And the media fad will change. Now the joke's on you, you're a fool. 28 years ago, everyone told you that coconut oil was bad. It'll clog up your arteries, you're going to have a heart attack. They're saying the same thing about poutine. It's just some fries with gravy and melted cheddar cheese curds on top. The saturated fats in cheese are no different than the saturated fats in coconut oil. They're medium chain triglycerides. You don't get a heart attack from coconut oil. So the cause of heart attacks is not a poutine. It is not the pizza. Take a look at the Blue Diet. Take a look at Down to Earth with Zac Efron on Netflix. Take a look, and you will see the people who live to be 100, 103, 104, none of them are vegan, first of all. Now, we are advocating a high vibration diet. Yes, we are. We're going to talk more about that in another transmission. That there's nothing wrong with eating eggs as long as the chicken was a very happy chicken. So organic free-range eggs. That way the misery is not in the yolk. But I'm eating a dead fetus. It's disgusting. No. You're eating protein potential, building block potential. Now, fish, well, we have no issue with fish because they don't remember anything. Therefore, they don't save their anger and pain in the meat. When you kill them, yes, they're flipping and flapping. It looks pitiful, but that's just the spirit. That's not the soul. And you do not ingest karma. So you are not building karma when you eat fish. That's awesome, right? Yes, that's why Jesus ate fish. He knew this. And even the Buddha, Siddhartha, Gautama Buddha, said it. He even said that if the meal is prepared already and they offer you some and it has meat, you can't eat it. Why is that? Because the karma is not on you. Now, if the meal is being prepared entirely with the thinking of you, like you're the star of the show, okay? We're going to kill this chicken in your honor. We're killing, this goat in your honor. Everything's being dissected in your honor. And it started with you, or you had the idea. You're walking in the grocery aisle and it's your idea. Oh, I really want a steak right now. It is your desire. It's your intent. It's locked into the Akashic record. It gets recorded. It's on you. Karma 1, you 0. And you are accumulating karma every day. It has to come from the heart. We understand it's hard to believe, but if Daniel's mother can now believe it, and most of the nurses that he's had have converted, you will one day see that is the true truth. We are the engineers of heart intelligence. We know what we're talking about. It all starts in your heart. So, how does karma fit in? Well, ignorance. You remain ignorant as to what it is that you're really doing when you're eating meat. Not so much dairy, unless your dairy farm is very abusive, like where your money goes. So you are the apex. If you were to draw a flow chart, okay? What's A? You're at the top here. A. It all starts with you. A. Alpha. That's why our healing method is called Zora. The A is for Alpha. It's what started it is at the end. What ends it is the Omega, the Z. It's at the beginning because it ends now. And in the middle is Al. Al is gold. You are golden, right? You're in the middle. So the Alpha, the apex, where does it start? Starts with you. You earned your hard-earned dollars. You go and spend it. You're like, oh, those breakfast sausage links, Schneider's, Chopsy's, Pepperidge Farms, all these big names. You know you have the power. You know that, right? If everyone woke up tomorrow morning and said breakfast links, sausage rounds, pork bellies, bacon is discussed. Bacon is banned, just like a COVID initiative. Bacon's now banned. No more eating of bacon. Killing cows. No more steak. No more bison meat. No more deer. All of it Okay, we have a big law that gets swept across as quickly as your COVID laws have been swept across. Those companies would all go belly up. And in 150 years from now, nobody would know about them. Nobody would care. You would manage without it. Now, we are a big fan of tempeh. Tempeh. It is fermented soy. You can take it when you have thyroid disorder. It is the most perfect plant protein there is because it has bacteria. Yes, it has mold. And it's very happy mold. It's good mold. It makes your intestinal tract very happy. Look it up. Tempeh can be stir-fried, and you can do lots of things with it. Anyway, so, and it will help you break out of the ignorance. That's why we're mentioning it. Now, going back to ignorance, you eat meat. Now, we are not saying to be vegan, because there is some benefit in raw, unpasteurized honey. Did you know you can apply it to a cut or a small wound, and it will help you coagulate, and it will heal it quicker, and it will help keep the scab from cracking? It's used in medical wound care. It's called Medi-Honey, and they mix the honey with tea tree oil to have disinfecting properties. So you can buy raw unpasteurized honey, goop it on your cut, even if you have a really bad gash, and put a drop of tea tree oil in it, and put a bandage over it and wrap it with tape, and change it every day, and you will see incredible superhuman benefits. So we are not advocating being vegan, just plant-based. Get your protein from a plant source. Black beans, for instance. We never said this to you yet. We are working on a book, and we are channeling a book in regards to Malice and the 8 children and the history of pain, profoundly anxious, inflamed neurology, and talking about the whole history of pain as an enslavement mechanism to keep you from enlightenment. So that being said, back to the apex, you have the decision. It comes from your heart. Now, it is in your DNA. It's a line of code in your DNA. If we were to remove that line of code, you will never think about eating meat. It wouldn't even be a part of you at all. We could also remove the line of code of competition right in the womb. So it would never happen. Now, this line of code of competition is very much alive, and we're going to prove it to you. The malice line of code is in you as well, and the thoughtlessness as well. Do you have children? Or babysat children, have observed the behavior of young children? Take a look at them, siblings, when they're 1.5 or 2 years old, playing with each other with the Legos. The one does something the other one doesn't like, and they'll smack them, or they'll throw the Lego right at their face. And that's when you hear that, "Mom, he hit me," and they cry. But where does that desire come from? If the child has never seen a television yet, because this was happening way before television, like babies in the 1920s and 30s were doing the same thing as today. So you've never seen your parents yell or fight or argue. You've never seen anyone punch the lights out of someone else. And you've never seen television. You've never been exposed to it at the grandparents' or the friend's house because you're still too young. Where does it come from? Where are you getting it from? It's real simple. It's in the DNA. It's in the code. That's the malice. That's the thoughtlessness. And it's necessary to create a violent person. Well, you feed it enough. It's natural to smack the person. It's not natural to hug the sibling and say thank you for taking my Lego away from me. Come on, who do you know does that? You have to teach them to be loving towards each other. What's wrong with that picture? Really? Think about it. You're children of light. Of course, what happens is you drink from the river of amnesia. And you forget all that and you come down here to be ignorant. So embrace it. Embrace your ignorance. You don't know everything there is to know. You don't know what you don't know. Your parents sure don't know what they don't know. And little by little, right? The one generation knows a little bit more than the previous one. And knowledge is growing. Baby steps, eh? Baby steps. It's like 1 teaspoon at a time. It's not exactly 1 big gulp at a time. That's too much. Your ego can't handle that. You're open-minded, but you're not that open-minded. Look what's happening with people of color. Still the old adage of the people of color. Come on. Right? Let's turn them into rappers. Let's empower them using sound. Here we go again. Music, right? You're going to rap about, what? Bitches and hoes and bitches and hoes. And how they're super empowered. So they're feeding the parent, right? The ego, right? The parent thinks it knows it all. We're going to make you rich. You're going to be rolling in the dough, which is what the ego loves. Lots of bling. Hey, got all about the bling. And you got Kanye West and all of them. But the reality is they're mentally ill. And they're very open about it. He's manic depressive. He has bipolar. Lady Gaga, lupus, fibromyalgia, manic depression, bipolar. It's part of embracing the malice. The traumatization, which is the inner child in the middle, has been crying the whole time. The parent has been relishing all the material assets and the fun in the front. But the child has been crying and neglected the whole time, and nobody's asked Grandpa's opinion either, or Grandma. And the grandparent is just observing this, shaking their head, and basically saying, oh, I wonder how this scenario is going to play out. And of course, you being here in this timeline, you are in what we call the worst case scenario zone. So, what does that mean? It's pretty simple. It means exactly what it means. The worst case scenario zone. Which means this is the part of you, the drop. That's why it's important to have a droplet in this timeline. This is where you go, right? The third Omax theater. This is where you go to explore the worst case scenario of every scene of your pre-written plot. That's it. The story is the story. You know, you're going to marry, you're going to have this many boyfriends or girlfriends, you're going to have this many kids. This is where you go to explore the worst case scenario that could happen of that. Worst case scenario of the first breakup, the first heartbreak. First case scenario of the first pregnancy could be what? Miscarriage, of course, right? Or fear, extreme fear of judgment and everything because you were too young. So abortion, that would be a nice worst case scenario, wouldn't it? It's all done for experience. That's it. The soul just wants to see. It's curious. So technically, you're your own best voyeur, aren't you? And it's just fun. Everybody gets hurt, yes, in the Matrix, but nobody gets hurt on the other side. Then you go back and exchange notes like good actors, right? So, what are we saying here? Of course we're saying love your abuser. Because that's a hard part to be casted in. That's probably the actor that loves you the most. It's just like a movie. You know, Daniel Day-Lewis, when he played the Butcher in Gangs of New York against Leonardo DiCaprio, that was a very scary character, wasn't it? But we're certain that Daniel Day-Lewis, as a person, as a human being in his own personal life, doesn't walk around with a cleaver killing people. But he sure played a good, convincing role. And of course, it's all done out of love, right? I mean, how many of you have been smacked and told later on, I'm only doing this because I love you, you know? Yes, it's sick, isn't it? Enjoy it. This is the sick part of the playground. It's okay because you're all sick. It's okay because that's part of the deal. You know? How is your mind going to handle it? Now, there's 3 minds. That's all we want you to think about. And remember that. And be kind to your middle mind, your inner child. The trauma. Now, that's why it's important to do the Zora method, the giving it a color method. We're going to include a link in the description of this transmission to a very powerful technique that we have given humanity, and it's about time that you start sharing it. This is something that should have been shared with you back in the 70s, and the powers that be want to make sure that you do not use this technique because it works too well. It can remove pain in a matter of minutes. Doesn't matter the kind of pain, emotional, traumatic. It can even be linked to your past life. You don't even need to know what memory it's linked with. Sorry, we mean associated, right? You call it association. And by giving it a color, you can remove it. It's a very simple technique. And we are posting the link to the other channel that our channel has, which is Zora Subliminals. It's a new channel, so please subscribe. We will be providing on-the-go hypnosis. We will be sharing what we know about the mind. And long gone are the days of sitting there 25 minutes trying to relax and be inducted. We know you don't have the time for that. We know you are smart enough, witty enough, clever enough, you love yourself enough to take the time out of the day, put headphones on, and enjoy the hypnosis without hypnosis. You can't leave the house. You can't go to an appointment anymore. The offices are closed. And we refuse to let that get in the way of you healing and ascending and becoming the best version of you that you could possibly be. That is our commitment to humanity and our commitment to you. I am Aku, and we love you.